Hi Hannah, this is your feedback with India from your Baroque test in June. I'll send the judge sheet back in the same email that I send the link for this. I really like the test. I think she's changed already in the few times I've seen her. Your ability to be with her is much better, and her softness, you're quite right as you mentioned in the video, her softness is there. There tends to be a lack of purpose at times with it, which will come, and I know you were wondering if I had any thoughts on that. Well, I would say, having watched your test a few times now, that the most important thing is to keep going in the vein that you're going. So in your warm-up, start in a really slow jog trot. Don't be forced into going forwards too fast. You could rise to it, you could sit to it. If you've got a balanced position, it's not going to make a massive difference that you sit to it. In fact, sometimes I think it gets you warmed up as well when you sit to it. And I think that when you've done that, then you come back to walk. You do a lot of lateral work, 10 minutes at least in walk lateral work, where you move between shoulder in, counter shoulder in, travers on a square. So you're not messing around going large, no, having ages of walk where you're doing nothing. This is quite an intense thing. Think of a 20 by 20 square in the middle of the arena and work in that. Moving turn on the forehand from the left, moving turn on the forehand from the right, and just keep, it's like a little yoga session for her. So you've done the jog trot, you come to the lateral work in walk, and then you come back to your trot, and you feel that already there's a difference. Start putting transitions within your trot, and have yourself a few different trots. So you've got the jog trot, you've got the rising trot maybe that comes nearer to a medium trot. You've got the stretchy trot where she works over her back and takes the rein down a little. And that can be either in a jog pace or it can be in a working trot pace. So we're not thinking of pushing beyond or even perhaps getting to working trot. We're just finding some different trots within that. Move between those, back and forward, halt, rein back, forwards to trot. But don't go anywhere in a straight line for more than 2 or 3 strides, because you're just wasting valuable time. Always put in your turns, your circles, your bends. You can work on figure eights, small figure eights to fit within that 20 by 20. You could ride very, small serpentines. When I say small, the loops don't go out to the outside of the track. So any time that you go in a straight line is probably a bit wasted at this point in the warm-up. And for some horses that are taking a longer time to get warmed up, you might be doing that for 30, 40 minutes. The whole program, from the jog, the walk, lateral work, to the different trots, to the lateral work, then starting a little bit in the trot as well. You could be talking 30, 40 minutes by the time you finish that, and you're warm enough to really feel that impulsion come. And there's a moment when you feel that if you ask for more, it's there. If you ask for less and shorten it and carry it and ask for more connection, you've got that too. So I think you'll get that as she gets physically stronger and as you use that sort of warm-up for her, so that you'll really get into all areas of India when you perform your warm-up. Okay, sorry, lost a little bit there. So let's have a look at the video. So yeah, on that first half circle, she's quite long. That I have longer horses in the Baroque, trust me, that's not a worry, but I'm looking at this for you being the best you can. So if you came into that half circle from a shoulder in just before, then that's going to set you up even better for that circle. She's going to have her frame a little bit shorter. You've only got to ask for 2 or 3 steps before you do. Excuse me. And then you'll have that super soft bend on that circle to start with. Then we come to the change. Yeah, which you didn't really, I can tell there, you didn't really come in with your left leg to support her through that change of bend. You do get a lovely bend once you're on this left half circle, but it's not from the start. And it's that change, the things that make a horse more supple, more able to bend and do all those wonderful things are change. It's never doing the same thing. So changing rein, changing pace, changing direction. That's absolutely all the time. So you can move, bend to the outside, you can turn, you can ride a corner, you can ride a half circle back to the track, those things. But just keep change happening for her. So by now we've got reasonably good inside bend, and we come, into a much nicer frame now already, just from those 2 half circles. Yeah, like this uphill, this is light, although you're a bit, there's something in your upper arms that, I'll pause it because I don't want to miss any of the tests to feedback for you. There's a tightness in your upper body. I think it might come from your lower back not flexing very well. And I'm not sure if that's a physical thing. So if you want to let me know a little bit about what that is, if you feel you have got a stiffness in your lower back. I wouldn't have thought her movement, as opposed to Freckles, who's got quite a lot of movement, I wouldn't have thought India's movement would be too difficult for you to sit to. But I can definitely see a stiffness there in the lower back, and obviously the right hip could be causing some of that. But it seems more to me then that you're holding your breath almost with your upper body. I don't mean you're holding your breath, but that's that look of, I'm sitting up really nice and tall because I'm a dressage rider and that's what I'm supposed to do. So I would like you to let go with the upper body a bit. Let it drop down. Slouch for a bit. Yeah, just practice doing a slouch and then coming back up, doing a slouch, then coming back up, so that you don't seem to be in that rigid upper body sort of feel that you have at times. And then you can hopefully connect that with the lower back, and it will all become a lot softer. The other thing to look at is your head. Make sure that your chin is down. I'd like to, I think, see the peak of your cap come down a little bit, but I'll try and find a suitable moment to describe that better to you. We're a bit wobbly on centre lines. Fix yourself a point in the distance and ride to that. Don't be too much thinking about where the next movement's coming. Again, we sort of missed that change of bend there. You get it, and your bending's good. Let me hold that. Your bending's good. It's just that you tend to avoid getting it right at the start. And I think it's because your mind's on other things. So here I'd like to have seen right leg comes in for her to bend around, but it didn't. It was, not there at all. And then we come into a reasonably good shoulder in, but she's a little bit heavy on your right rein. So you've got quite a nice lot of right bend, but it ends at your hands. And I would like to see that come through all the way through to the tail. Obviously, you're not getting bend in the tail, but now I don't know whether you can see this, but your right leg tends to tuck back a little bit here. I'd like you to think of this right leg doing this. Okay, just imagine that your right leg can get that long, because what's happening earlier on in the shoulder in, your leg came back here to aid. Oh, that's a terrible drawing, apologies. Yeah, but your leg comes tucked behind, and what I want you to think of is long and down, and keep that weight into the right leg, because what it's done is tip you over to the left. Then you've asked for the left bend, and then you want to have you've asked for right bend, and you want to have the left shoulder. But because you're weighted over to the left, having used your right leg in that way, it's very hard to do that. So keep yourself in balance in the shoulder in, use that inside leg aid, and then release it. Use it, release it. Weight down into the ball of your foot all the time, so that you do draw that leg away from her. But yeah, I'm being mega fussy here because you want feedback. There's lots worse things going on in tests that you'll see in the Baroque class. Okay, managed to flip that right back. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, so if you watch that again, you'll see here how the right leg opens up and comes back as you're trying to sort of put your right heel to press the flesh, as it were. It's a totally human thing, but it would be much better if you could train yourself to use that leg long and around her. But really, you don't have problems with your rider. Again, the straight lines are difficult for her. Fix on something further in the distance and try not to be in the moment almost in those times. Okay, just saw something there with your upper body. Let's have a look. So nice bend. Yeah, as you come through that corner, lift up with your inside rein a little bit so that you don't get this drop here of the shoulder. We tend to have this shoulder here just dropping a little bit. So if you lift up through the rein instead of having it low down and pulling in towards you, then I think you'll find that's a much easier way to do that. So think up with your hand, down with your leg. So that left leg is going down to be used. And then we come into a reasonably good shoulder in. Again, just a fraction of her being on your inside rein, but not as much as on the other, and some really nice inside hind coming under. Lovely frame now. Look at the frame. The difference between the opening seconds and this is vast. Really nice to see. So then we come into the leg yield, and she just needs to be more open through the shoulders. Really work on that opening up of the shoulders in the leg yield. And again there, you know, she really wasn't very responsive to the aids, but I know you'll be working on that. Actually thinking about that, there's a really nice little exercise to help the leg yield. I might have mentioned it in previous tests, is to ride a moving turn on the forehand. So in your, you know, working in perhaps, or in your training during the week, perhaps ride a moving turn on the forehand from the left leg and then ride that directly into a leg yield. Obviously do it in walk to start with, and when you come to do a moving turn on the forehand in trot, which isn't strictly a thing, it's going to be a lot bigger. So you'll do it on, say, a 6, 8, 10 metre vault, and you'll just be asking the quarters to step out on that, and then you'll go directly into a leg yield from it. So that's a nice little exercise to think about. Okay, so it's a nice downwards transition. We lost the posture a little bit there, but not a big deal. Yeah, I'd really like her to be placing that inside hind a little more in on the corners and the turns. And here again, we're just lacking a little bit of oomph. The ground cover it's difficult. She's stiff in her hind legs. Understand that. She's got problems, but I think you can work on that, and that can get better and better for her. And maybe when she's feeling better about the whole thing, she'll keep offering you that little bit more. That was a really lovely change of bend at the end there. And then we come into, she maintained the posture quite nicely there. Very long and not really enough of a stretch down. And then we come into the raised posture. And that just all looked a little bit tight, which I don't think can be the way you're training it, because I would imagine you've done this very, I keep losing my place too, excuse me. So let's get back to where we were. So we're in the walk with the stretch down, then we go into the trot with the stretch down. I'd like her to be following the rein down. If you're saying, here's my hand, go to it, but she's sort of staying a little bit up in the posture. Yeah, so she just braced against your hand a little bit. I would work on that stretch down in the trot. And the transitions between the walk and the trot. That's relatively easy to do. I'm probably guessing that you have a head down cue, so you know, just changing the balance in the trot so that she puts her head down and she brings it up and down and up, transitions within that. I tend not to teach postural clicker work. I like it to come from the movement. I like them to give it to me and then I can capture it, rather than teaching, you know, a pretty look, this is how I want you to look, and then putting that onto cue. So I want it to come from them in a physical way first. But yeah, she just came a little bit against your hand there in that transition, and you lost your softness, and you're, yeah, quite tight in that upper body then. So let that upper body go a little bit and let it sink into your lower half. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'd like the shoulders to be a little quicker, but look what it does to her self-carriage there. And this is the sort of thing you could be doing in your warm-up, but lots of it. So you go from this to something else and intersperse it with lots of walk on a long rein as well. Now we're going to come to the moving turn on the forehand. Yeah, I'd like her hind legs to be a little bit more active in that. Oh, sorry, me and my finger not getting it right. Let's come back to that. Yeah, I'd like to see her a little more active in these hindquarters. Keep it more forwards. I would step it more forwards. Yeah, there you get it. Right towards the end you get that quite nicely. So really not worrying about how small the forefeet are working. They don't need to be on a dinner plate. They can be on a round kitchen table size. But it's all about those hindquarters and getting the softness in the bend. And the other thing I noticed in that one, let's take it back again as well, is that be careful as you use your leg that again you don't tip over away from the side you use it. So keep that left leg long, use it close to the girth and walk around it. But nice, it's potentially really good. Then we come to the halt was a bit wobbly. This again could be your right hip that's causing this blockage as you come through into the halt. I would suggest that you work on this with some parallel poles or just as you already would, you know, in a light way with your clicker, and get her halting really lightly with nothing so that your seat doesn't have an effect on her. And then you can practice being really balanced in the transitions and try not to tighten up yourself as you come into that halt. Lift up through the hands. Sometimes working with the reins in one hand can be really helpful. That can also be helpful in the shoulder in to stop you asking for too much inside bend. So working with the reins in one hand as you come into halt, you're much less able to be heavy on one more on one than the other. So you keep your weight down, lift up through the hand, close the seat bones. I know that's physically impossible, but just that picture of sucking up the walk into your seat to the halt, and then hopefully you won't have that wobbly back end. I say if you've got parallel poles down, you can bring them in to be quite a lot closer, and that's going to strengthen up both her hinds equally, because the reason she steps off to the side could be a little bit of your right hip, but it's going to be a lot about her. So the more she can get strong in that, the better. The rein back's reasonably good, a little bit off on the diagonal rhythm, and I'd like to have seen it, that whole last section, I'd like to have seen a little bit cleaner, so that we step back, and then we step forward, and then we halt. So, but it looked all a bit of a mishmash at the end there. But I really like this test, and I thought that you've gone such a long way in such a short time between the three tests now that I've seen of you, and it's really a lovely thing to see. Work on doing less to get more, and try especially to think of that with your inside leg, so that you put it back to your default position each time before you use it again. So especially in things like the shoulder in or the leg yield, use the leg, put it back, use the leg, put it back. I think that's going to help you. Working on the suppleness of your lower back, I think, will help you, because there is that stiffness in your upper body. As I see you looking here, as I'm looking at this picture, it looks as if you're kind of breathing in a little bit and holding on to yourself, because that's how tall, proud dressage riders ride. And I'd like you to look at some more working equitation riders, where these, especially the Spaniards, you know, they ride from their chest, they ride from their torso. So I might have mentioned it in your test last time, but you know, think of opening up at the clavicle. Don't pull your shoulders back. That's the worst thing. You can get really tight there. Drop your chin down a fraction, open across your clavicle. Think of your shoulder blades actually growing out. Again, I might have mentioned this, and it's a bit of a silly picture, but it helps me. I imagine that I'm growing wings out of the ends of my shoulders, and when they've grown out as wide as those wings can go, they gently just fold down by my sides and become my hands, my arms going towards the horse. Whatever mind picture works for you, you're thinking about keeping the tension away from the upper body, so it has to be soft up there. You can't, you know, you want the tension that keeps your body in place, but you don't want the tension that stops it from moving. You're just, you know, looking a little bit that I want to break you at that top half and soften you up a little bit and put you back together. So allow that upper body to drop down a bit. Some people you have to tell to sit tall, You're already sitting tall. Let yourself down a little bit and soften that top half, and let's see if that helps you. But really well done, and such a change in a few times that I'm really heartened to see.